Hello, Internet. My name is Roro, and welcome to my channel. Making music is an important part of my life, and in order to make music that you like, you have to feel good about it while you're doing it. So, in today's video, I wanted to talk about how I lost my confidence in making music and how I plan on getting that confidence back. So, let's get into it. I think the first thing that you'll hear musicians talk about when they're writing music, when they're making songs, or producers when they're making beats is quantity versus quality. And obviously, this is subjective. You know, somebody can spend 2 years writing one song and it can be the best song in the world, or somebody can make 1,000 songs in a year and one of those songs is the best song in the world. It's all up to the artist, it's all up to their preference, and it's all up to your goals in creating music. But for me personally, I've found that quality comes from quantity. So if I overthink a song too much and I spend too much time on it, it's sort of like leaving something in the oven for too long. It's going to get overcooked. It's not going to be as good. And you're going to remove some of that life that was there when you first started making it. If you add too much stuff, if you take too much stuff out, if you mix it too much. Again, this is just my personal preference in creating. So, in order for me to make good music by my standards, I have to be making a lot of music. There was a time in the past where I felt like I had to be making beats constantly. Like, if I didn't make at least one beat a day, I felt like I was failing as a musician. I felt like I was doing something wrong. But realistically, it was more like 2 to 4 beats a day because I would just try to get an idea out and I wouldn't necessarily like finish it in that moment. Like, I wouldn't like necessarily put the final mix on it, but maybe just making like a 4 bar loop that's like finished. Like the loop itself is finished, the structure of the song is maybe almost there, and all the ideas that I have are all there. And then maybe later I'll come back, I'll revisit it, I'll tweak stuff, and then mix it, and then it's done. That is my process in making music that I found is I have the highest rate of making successful songs by my standards. And when I say I mean the highest rate, I mean the most amount of quote unquote successful songs that I can make. So, for example, if I make 10 songs in a year, there's probably not going to be 10 good songs. There might be one or two. But if I make 100 songs in a year, maybe only five of those songs are really good and I like enough that I want to put out. But if I didn't make those 100 songs, I wouldn't have those five. If I only make 10 songs, I'm not going to get five, most likely. But then again, that's not always true. I can have a run where I make 4 or 5 songs in a day or 2 days, and they're like the best songs that I've made that whole year because I just caught a vibe and I like was feeling it and I was really tapped into that creative energy. But this is leading to the point that I'm trying to make where it's important to be constantly working on stuff. And what has led me to lose my confidence in making music is I have not been working on music regularly. Like, I don't really make beats every day like I once did. I don't play guitar every day like I once did. I'm not writing lyrics every day. I'm not working on music every day. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. It's important to take breaks sometimes, but I feel like now when I go to make a song, like when I pull up Ableton and I go to make a beat, or when I grab my guitar and I go to write something, I feel like I don't know where to start. Whereas if I'm making stuff all the time, I'm not even going to think about where to start. I'm just going to start. I'm just going to make something. So I think the solution for me to getting out of this rut and to kind of feel better about what I'm making and feel more confident in what I'm making is to just be making stuff all the time. And it's important to not get down on yourself when you make something you don't like because not everything you make is going to be a masterpiece. Like, it to use these ratios again, if I work on 100 songs and 10 of them are good, those other 90 songs are not failures. They're just practice. They're every song you make, you're going to learn something new that you can apply to the next song that you make. Or you're going to learn something that you don't want to do and you're not going to do it anymore. You have to make those mistakes. It's trial and error, throwing something at a wall, seeing what sticks. That's a huge part of the creative process for me. And if I'm not doing that regularly, I'm not going to get the best music out of me Does that make sense? Now, I'm not somebody who's trying to be involved in the music industry necessarily. Like, I'm not really trying to get placements on rappers' albums or like collab with big people or get my music in commercials or whatever industry stuff you want to do. That's not my goal. But I do have friends that are deep in the music industry and they're tapped in. And I've gotten a lot of advice from them, even just making stuff on my own. Like, I'll never forget one of my friends who isn't involved in the music industry. He's got music and commercials and all that kind of stuff. He said that when he's looking for somebody that he wants to work with and potentially put on and potentially give an opportunity to, it's not necessarily a matter of like who's the most talented. Obviously, you have to be talented to get to a certain point in the music industry, but what he prioritizes is how fast you can work and how confident you are in what you're doing. You know, if you're sitting there like doubting yourself for an hour, not really putting together something, people are going to lose confidence in you because you're not confident in yourself. It's almost better to just go for something and try it and, maybe spend 20, 30 minutes and then be like, you know what, this isn't working. Let's just move on. Like, you have to be willing to just put yourself out there and try it. And this doesn't only apply to like getting opportunities and like jobs and music, it applies to your own creation. Like, if you're working on an album or you want to make a project or you just want to make songs, you just want to have, a backlog of stuff that you can work with and figure out what you're going to put out later. You have to be confident in what you're doing or else you're never going to feel good about it after the fact. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to believe in yourself or else no one else is going to believe in you. Like, the odds of you making something and you're not feeling good about it the whole time, you're doubting yourself, even if somebody didn't witness the process, that's most likely going to come through in the music and people will pick up on that. It's very, I don't even think everybody realizes this fully, especially people who aren't musicians themselves, but people like to listen to music that the person who made it feels like they made the right thing. That's kind of a weird concept. I don't know if that makes perfect sense, but that doesn't mean you have to be confident in the moment in yourself as a person. You just have to feel like what you're doing is what you're supposed to be doing. Like, you can be feeling super depressed and shitty and your life sucks, and you really feel the urge to make something, and you making something is what you're supposed to be doing in that moment, and people will pick up on that. Like, you don't have to be like braggadocious, bravado, confidence in that way. You have to be confident in your ability to create music. And in my opinion, the less you think about it, the better. If you get into that flow state where you're just making music, you don't have any thoughts, you're almost like meditating. That's when the best music comes. The best songs that I've ever made that other people have also picked up on and liked are usually not things that I spent weeks on and tinkering and, oh, maybe I'll re-record this line, maybe I'll change the snare sound, maybe I'll like add a bridge and change the section. Now maybe I'll change the tempo. Like, most of the time, the best stuff that I've made that other people have liked the most is something that I made very quickly. I kind of got it to a point where it sounds good, and then that's it. It just is what it is. And again, this is just my personal process. Everybody's different. But I think the bigger point that I'm trying to get at to finding your confidence in creating music is you have to know what you want to do. And that can be anything. You have to know your process. You have to be comfortable with your process so that you can work at a pace that you feel comfortable working at. Like, you can work slowly. Again, I like to work fast. You can work slowly, but you have to be okay with working slowly. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be like, oh man, this is taking forever for me to figure out this chord change. Like, oh man, I can't figure out how to make this drum groove fit on these, like, this guitar part that I wrote. Like, if you don't feel good about doing it, no one else is going to feel good about it. I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself at this point, but I just really want to stress this point because I need to hear this because I'm in a rut creatively where I'm not confident and I don't believe in myself, but I have no reason to feel that way other than I'm just out of practice. It's the same thing with anything. If you don't use it, you lose it. Creating music, your creative muscle is a muscle. Maybe not literally, but it functions in the same way as a muscle. Like, if you're running 6.5 minute miles and you don't run for 6 months, the next time you go back, you're not going to run a 6.5 mile, probably. You're going to be a lot slower. And you're going to have to get back into the groove of running to build yourself up to that point where you can do it again. So basically, it's the same thing with music. It's the same thing with any sort of art. It's all about the process. It's all about you feeling good about what you're doing. Now, if you like this video, if you like what I'm talking about, I have a bunch of other videos on my channel talking about similar things, you know, music, art, mental health, the creative process, how all those things are connected. That's all I really love talking about that stuff. So if you're interested, like I said, I have a bunch of other videos on my channel. Put out a new video every Sunday. I stream on Twitch sometimes. The link's in my bio for that if you want to follow me on there and come through, say what up. I make music on there. I play video games sometimes. And I like to make an original piece of music for every single outro of every video that I make. And I feel like this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. If I'm making at least one thing every week, that's good. But this is like just something that I do extra for fun. So I'm going to play what I made right now. Hope you guys like it. Hope you guys like this video. And I'll see you next time.